In this video, I want to talk about the following. When someone uses cuss words, swear words, or forbidden words, folks tend to become angry. Whether it's the F word, the S word, or whether they use a certain word in the so-called wrong context, we will get fed up and say that's profanity. We don't want to hear that. People are very fanatic in defending language structures. But one thing they don't get upset about is when people are inviting the spirit of death towards them. That's something you can do. You can do it in a very polite manner. They're okay with it, as long as you validate their unexamined expectations on how you should talk. Now I'm here to tell you, stop inviting the spirit of death. Now, I'm not blaming you, okay? Because you've been conditioned by the world. And those that rule the world didn't tell you why they conditioned you in such a way. Because your parents were conditioned, your teachers were conditioned, society was conditioned, and around society, the pagan rulers did. But they didn't tell you why they conditioned you the way they did. So you can't know any better in this aspect, but that's why I'm here to shine light in that darkness, to reveal unto you that you, knowing to yourself, you are inviting the spirit of death. Yes, that's what you were doing. Yeah, there are two ways you can invite someone. You can send a letter or a note saying there's a party here, please come, I want to see you there. Or you can, let's say there's a criminal, you can put your bike there without a lock, and there's an expensive camera in the back that's on the bike, and it's obvious there's an expensive camera over there. And what's happening now? That's inviting thieves to rob you. You're not giving them permission to do it, but you make it so easy for them to take advantage of the situation that it kind of entices them to take advantage of it. That's another form of inviting. Now I want to talk about that second form, because you've been conditioned in that way to invite the spirit of death. Now, how does the spirit of death operate? Now, I mentioned before in two previous videos, watch them. The spirit of death received this title, spirit of death, though who is, I don't want to say famous, because I don't want to give them credit, but okay, he's famous amongst the demons. He's famous for being this angry bailiff, or an angry debt collector. It goes like this. Unclean spirits, they form gangs. They form small cartels, often in the form of a pyramid. And those cartels are called strongholds also. And those evil spirits, they need to feed off of human energy. So in order to do this, they offer contracts to some pagans that they will work on the behalf of those pagans in exchange for those pagans working hard to keep the human population around them in negativity. So you have those sellouts who are in demonic contracts, and they get those contracts from the wizards, and they get the paranormal cover with the paranormal advantage, and in return they make sure people around them are in a state of anxiety. And when people around them are in a state of anxiety, the demons feed off of it. So the demons are happy because they are being fed. The wizards are happy because the mankind is kept in a state of negativity, and the sellouts are happy because they get their relief. Okay? But let's say now, and I'm going to use a parable now, let's say now you have this pagan guy called Jeffrey, and he is a drug dealer. He has this contract with a demonic principality. The wizard made the contract for him, he signed it. He went through the dark room rituals, all the things he had to do. And now he has people from shadow government making drugs, and he's selling it. Selling all the dope. And he makes a lot of money. The money he makes, he's allowed to purchase an expensive apartment, but he has to invest it in the negativity. So he starts a fake business for money laundering, and through that fake business, he now sponsors human trafficking, or he sponsors kidnapping. He has to sponsor the negative. He, from time to time, even pays guys from the streets to just go and beat up someone randomly, in a ritual manner, of course, because he needs to give praise to Apollo. Why is he doing that? Because he needs to keep the people around them in the negative. And because he's a drug dealer, he sells dope, he also has the responsibility given to him by the shadow government to make sure that the women around him are in a state of threat. So this guy has a few employees, let me call it like that, who are lover boys, and they go out there chasing females, not because they want the females because they're gay, but they chase the females and then take advantage of the females. And when this happens, when the community experiences this over and over again, that females taken advantage of by those lover boys, the females get in a state of anxiety towards men. And now there's a pressure on the men to prove that they're not all men are like that. And that's how you keep contention between the sexes. Now, this is what demons want, because the throne of Antichrist, who is Apollo, is found on sexual dysphoria. So the drug dealer needs to invest in it, 100%. Now let's say now, I and a brother, maybe a brother called Noel, enter into a town. And we reside there, and he preached the gospel, I do the same thing. And after a while, a lot of the females around are touched by the message, and it affects their way of thinking in a positive manner. So what happens now is that their fright reduces, and they're not aware of it directly. But over time, the quality of their human relationships become better. So now you have several females in the community that function in a feminine way, as Christ intended. And this has an impact on the men that they're involved with. So slowly but slowly, positivity is spreading through the community. You also have men who are affected by the message, and they have a positive impact on other men around them. In the paranormal, however, the strongholds are sensing that they don't receive the same amount of fearful energy anymore. So they feel that something is up. And by the way, if there are people getting delivered, there are shocks going through the environment. Those earthquakes will happen in the paranormal, so they realize, oh dear, someone has been delivered. So when this is going on, the demons become upset because they need people to be in a state of fright. So what's going to happen is the following. The demons now will report this to the principalities in the demonic realm, and the principalities then will hire this guy called the Spirit of Death. He's called the Grim Reaper also. And this guy comes along and says, what's going on? I'm inactive now. And the principalities tell him, in that town in the Netherlands, there's a reduction in negative energy from the females. And then the Grim Reaper asks, how could this happen? And then they inform him that there were two men that came into that city. They began to preach the gospel in such a way that it affected people. And now you have a bunch of men and women who operate in positivity, and they have a healing effect on the community. And then the Green Verse says, tell me who those men are, because I'm going after them. Then the strongholds in that environment, the leader of the stronghold, the strong man, when the Spirit of Death arrives, tells him, these are the two men. And then the Spirit of Death, who arrives with his own gang, now will go after those two men. In the parable, it's me and a brother called Noel. And then me and Noel, suddenly we will experience people looking weird at us. We'll experience all these heavy assaults on our energy field. We may experience that there are sudden almost accidents that happen. Accidents really happen, but almost accidents. We may sense that things become too difficult for us. First time it can happen that you have a train delay, but It's all the time that we are about to take the train. There's a delay with the train. So we begin to experience all these weird disruptions and what's going on. The spirit of death is on an assignment approved by the beast to take out Noel and Rashid. Talking about the parable. So the spirit of death, he operates like this. The paranormal has a claim on the human population. They think they have the right on the human beings. This claim is false, but that's their claim. And they use, I would say, they use lies to trap people in their claim. So anytime someone from the world wants to get away from the matrix, the demons are coming after that individual to get him or her in a state of anxiety again. Often this works perfectly fine. But when the positive impact is so big, the spirit of death comes in, because he will come with revenge after anyone, believer or unbeliever, but especially believers, who are disrupting the matrix. And here's the thing, many don't know this. Before the spirit of death goes after, in this case, Rashid and Noel and those other people that operate in a positive, he goes to the door of that drug dealer over there. That drug dealer may be one of the 40 people who has made a paranormal contract. And here's what happens. That drug dealer is in his apartment having a party with some of his friends. There are some strippers over there. They are so-called having a good time. And suddenly the light goes off. On and off, on and off. So people think, what's going on here? And then when everyone's is thinking, you know what, we need to quit this party, something's weird here. Suddenly, someone at the party falls to the ground. He doesn't die, but he needs to go to the hospital. And then the next day, the party had to be over when it happened. The next day, the guy's in his sleep and he hears someone screaming in his ear. And he thinks, what's going on here? Then when he drives a car, something is screaming in his ear again. He almost got an accident. And then the third day, someone knocks very hard on his door. He goes to open it, but there's no one there. It happens several times. And one time he goes to open it and he sees the Grim Reapers there. And Grim Reaper tells him, Robert, you know what's written in the contract, right? Yes, Robert says, well, there are quite some men and women here, actually more women, who have a healing effect on the community. How can this be that we empower you with all this wealth and still there's this healing effect going on and you're not on it? And then the guy knows, okay, sir, I'll go after it. And the Grim Reaper says, I'm not saying it again. This Robert knows that he is fortunate that a warning came, because often there is not even a warning. So this Robert now will go to fortune tellers who will inform him who the people are that cause this healing effect, and he will pay folks to harass them on the internet or to go after them. That's how it goes. The spirit of death is an angry debt collector. And everyone, listen carefully what I'm saying here, everyone in the demonic contract is living under a threat. Don't look at that big house that they have. Don't look at the fast cars. Don't look at all those hoes and all those strippers that they are sleeping with. Don't look at the expensive holidays. Everyone in a demonic contract has to deal with the Grim Reaper. They have to deal with that spirit of death. Why? Because they have all those gadgets as long as they keep others around them in a state of anxiety. The moment a real positive impact comes to the community, even if it's not their fault, they couldn't prevent it, that angry debt collector goes after them. Then you may hear that there is a woman called Alicia, and she has a career going for her, and suddenly one of her cousins dies due to cancer. Or maybe she has a dad, and the dad had a terrible accident with a car. The car rolled over multiple times. all these things, bad things begin to happen to her suddenly. And people are thinking, what's going on? She's in a paranormal contract. And the Grim Reaper, the angry bailiff, is upset because the matrix is disrupted. And according to the spirit of death, you who are in a contract with paranormal, you're responsible for allowing this to happen. Even if it wasn't your fault, it is your fault, so you're going to pay. That's why everyone in a paranormal contract is dedicated in making Christ appear ridiculous to the population. Some may even join churches, pretend to be believers, make Facebook pages talk about Jesus all the time, and then they conduct themselves in a disgraceful manner. Why? They try to impute shame on the name of Christ. Why are you doing that? Because they know if any of those believers, even if it's an old man in his 90s, begin to have a healing impact on the community, the chances are that something terrible is going to happen to them, because the angry debt collector comes by, uninvited, unexpected, and they can be fined. They will have sudden affliction, and it's going to be very bad. So that's how some of them end up as drug addicts on the streets, and they die because the angry debt collector took it out on them. There are even evil spirits who are frightened of the spirit of death. But here's the thing. That's in darkness. You are a believer. You're in Christ. You're in Christ. You don't owe the paranormal anything. Even when you were an unbeliever and you were lost, you still didn't owe them anything, because they have no right on you anyway. They want to have a right on you. They want to be the gods that determine over you, but they're not. But they can have a hold on you by tricking you to operate in the negative. So the pagan rulers of this world, they conditioned you to invite the spirit of death. How? By how you think and how you relate to yourself based on the language you were conditioned into. That's why I'm telling you to be renewed in your mind. One way a lot of folks invite the spirit of death onto them is when they give their parents, they don't give it when they agree that their parents have the right to abuse them because they are their parents. No! Your parents are human beings just like you. Those bodies of theirs will expire just like yours, and it will be Christ himself that needs to raise them from the dead. So if all of you are dependent on Christ to raise you from the dead, then who are your parents? Your parents have the right to treat you badly because they're frustrated. It's not only the parents. Society conditions you into agreeing with others having the right to harm you. Let me give a parable onto you. Let's say you're about to take a job, okay, to work on an office, but in your contract it's written, anytime anything goes wrong at the office, the boss has the right to kick someone in the arse. Or if the boss is frustrated at home in his marriage, he has the right to lay hands on any of the women at the workplace, and you have to get along with it. Or that if they lose some profit, someone has to die at the office. If that would be written in a contract, would you accept that job? You wouldn't. You would report that corporation and they would be out of business within a day. But yet, people are conditioned to think that others have the right to have a negative will towards them. Look, if someone decides to put you in a negative category, they don't like you, they can't stand you, it's them willing it, not you. And you are a human being. You have relatives, you have people that are connected to you, who are affected by you. And they isolate you as if you're an individual creature with no connection to others, and they push you in a negative category. And now, anytime they see you, they frown or they make plain that they can't stand you. So now they are in the negative, and now they want to dump that frustration on you to have control. And when you don't do it, they are escalating. And what does society tell you? Don't force yourself on other people. They don't like you. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Hold on a minute. Hold on. The other is in the negative. They agree harm on you. And now you need to give them space, leave them at ease to spread filth in the environment. Um, are, are you kidding me? Look, people can be upset if you do something that's way out of line. People can be upset if they have legitimate reasons to be upset. But to put you in a negative category, that they can't see you, they don't want you around, to have a will against you, no. Nobody has the right to do that. Because once you give someone the right to have a negative will, now they have the need to act out that will. And that's how you end up in genocides. That's how you end up in scenarios like World War I, World War II, and all of that. Now I know that all wars are hoaxes, but the tension is real, and the big rulers, they make use of that tension. But you've been conditioned into thinking people have a right to have a negative will towards you. And that you need to validate their will, and this attitude of veneration is what they call respect. Respect is veneration to the angry wills of human beings and evil spirits. That's what respect really is. Someone has a will that they don't want to examine it, they don't want it to be challenged, and now you need to make sure you validate that will, or else something needs to happen to you. And they have the right to act out against you because their will is challenged. That's what respect's all about. And ever in the world, they condition you to be respectful. They don't explain why. They don't back it up. Especially they don't back it up with Christ, because it's not even Christ-centered, so they can't do that. The only way they back it up is with violence. There is a will, you don't give in to it, something bad happens to you. And they teach you, if something bad happens to you, it's your fault because you didn't give in to that will. So they blame the victim. And people, when this happens to you as a kid, or as it should happen to someone else, in a self-protective mode, you comply because you don't want bad to happen to you. But what a lot of folks do is that they internalize this abuse and align with it. And now, because they're under the Stockholm Syndrome, they don't want to face that they've aligned themselves with abuse. So some folks even begin to act out against others, and they don't want to face that about themselves. Now they want to have their reason. Now they want to be respected, or now they want their negative will to be venerated. As a believer, you should know nobody has the right to do that towards you. Nobody has the right to have a negative will against you. Nobody, because Christ is Lord. Okay? So you ought to agree with Him. The moment you align yourself with the idea that others have the right to have a negative will towards you, you now open yourself up to the spirit of death, and now you open yourself up to accidents, you open yourself up to premature death, because now you are sponsoring, with your human energy, you're sponsoring the strongholds that are around. And by doing that, you're now extra vulnerable to danger. So now, because you agree that others have the right to have a negative will against you, you will not enforce repercussions on them. So now, without you being aware of it, you will sponsor evil. Okay? And that's why, even when I was a kid, I did not tolerate anyone having a negative will against me. That has nothing to do with that I was bothered how others talked about me. That's not the thing. The way people think about you, relate to you, and the way they, let me say, relate to you, does affect you. Okay? It's not about forcing people to be fond of you. It is about you being safe. If others think they have the right to have a negative attitude towards you, that negative attitude causes danger. So they think they have the right to endanger you because some will of theirs is frustrated. That doesn't add up. If someone appears before a judge here in the world because he stabbed someone, the individual can't say that he has the right to act out his will. The judge can tell him, hey, you harmed another human being. That's not allowed. You're going to jail. But the other said, no, it's my will. The judge is not going to take it. But yet, you are conditioned into agreeing with the negative wills of others. Why? Because when you're frustrated, you also want relief, and now you can project your ways onto others, and now you can get away with it because everyone agrees you should leave people alone. They have their reasons, they have their privacy, blah, blah, blah. I'm not into all that blah, blah, blah. I'm into Christ. Nobody has the right to have any negative will anywhere. Because he, Christ, is Lord of all. He's Lord of all. He's also Lord of the spirit of death. And as Lord of all, he alone deserves all our veneration and all our obedience. He deserves our complete trust, because he's Lord and he knows best. That means that those other people in consultation, they're not lords. It means they ought to obey Christ by fulfilling the negative will of theirs, by fulfilling those narcissistic entitlements. Now you cannot go after them personally to put them in place, because they will throw you in danger. But that doesn't, just because you don't do that doesn't mean you leave it as it is because, well, they just will it. No, you enforce spiritual repercussions on them through prayer, through decrees. Why? Because they are spreading filth and danger in the earth, and that needs to be stopped. But the world conditions you, they have a right to do that. No, they don't. Absolutely not. But when you agree that others have the right to have a negative will towards you or towards anyone else, you are inviting the spirit of death. You make it easy for that angry debt collector to collect debt. With debt, I mean evil spirits want to feed off human energy because they want to control mankind. They want to be gods over mankind. So your human energy, they see it as their property and they want to withdraw it. And when you don't make yourself easy for them to withdraw energy from you, they charge you with debt. Okay? And this debt collector, spirit of debt, is the one that's activated by the paranormal when the matrix is challenged too much and it's about to collapse in a region. And many folks have invited the spirit of death. Many folks are making it easy for the spirit of death to operate because they don't question how they've been conditioned. Again, I'm not making this video to point the finger at you and to blame you. I'm opening your eyes here. If you invite the spirit of death to you, you are contributing and sponsoring destruction around you and eventually your own premature death. And nobody in the right mind would do that. Well, I know that's why I'm exposing this to you. Look, I said before in another video I uploaded today that you need to circumvent Apollonistic language structures, because those Apollonistic language structures are also conditioned into you, so you would make yourself completely vulnerable and open to the spirit of death. Okay? I've spoken about the spirit of violence and the spirit, confusion spirits and partner spirit. I spoke about those entities and they are dangerous. Now I'm speaking about the spirit of death, because often when all hell springing loose around you or towards you, it's a spirit of death coming to how to say it in English? He comes to settle an account. And here's another thing, those bailiffs in the world today, many of them are pagans, they are learning from the spirit of death how to do their thing. If there's a debt collector coming to collect debt with you, he will send you a letter, often in which language, threaten you. He's operating like that spirit of death. That's where those pagans learned it from. Not directly, it's through the ones that taught them, but that's where they get it from. Now when you trample upon the spirit of death by your faith, you will see sudden miracles here and there. You will see sudden breakthroughs here and there in the lives of those around you and with yourself. The spirit of death continues to take people out on behalf of Apollo, who's the beast, because believers don't stop it. Because many believers themselves are inviting and walking with the spirit of death instead of walking by faith. What I just said there sounds very shocking, but you have believers, even though they're born again, they're not in agreement with Christ, and they are in agreement with the world, and they who have the spirit have the ability to crush the darkness around them. But instead of doing that, because they're indoctrinated by Babylon churches, they're now walking with the spirit of death. And evil spirits are happy with them because they make it so easy for them. And that's why the demons work on their behalf sometimes to make them loved by the world population. Now hold on a minute. If the world's in darkness, the world is run by pagan rulers, and demons feed off the darkness, and demons themselves operate in darkness, they are dark entities. How can it be that you operate in the light and the world is okay with you? There will be some human beings that get along with you and want the best for you. Even if they're unbelievers, you will have that. It's not that absolutely every human being of the world is going to turn on you as a believer. That's not the case. But it can't be that as a believer, it's the norm that you're praised and loved and embraced by those that don't follow Christ. When you have believers with the Holy Spirit who are so embraced by the world, it is because without being aware of it, they're walking with the spirit of death. And the spirit of death is happy with them. So the spirit of death tells the other cartels. It tells the other cartels, you know what? Make it easy for those Christ followers over here. Make sure they get the best jobs. Make sure they get marriage partners very quickly. Make sure that they can go on holiday thrice a year. Make sure they get all kinds of tax benefits. Make things very easy for them. Because they will consider this ease as a blessing, even though it's a trap, so that they won't make things hard on us. And meanwhile, because they're in the negative without being aware of it, they are working for us without being aware of it in confusing the world's population. That's how it goes. That's why, listen, Christ said to believers in the world, you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. So there is tribulation, but there's also victory with believers. If there is no victory, it means we're not walking by faith, because it's impossible to walk by faith and there's no victory coming. Okay? But if there is not even tribulation, then especially then you need to watch out, because something is terribly wrong there. And I explained to you what's happening behind the scenes. The spirit of death, who is the chief debt collector in the paranormal, is working on their behalf so that he can use them to send people to hell. That's what's going on. Well, I'm going to say it one more time. Stop inviting the spirit of death. I mean it. Stop doing it. Agree with Christ.